Alright, we'll see if that works better. Maybe. Hey, alright, great. It's working. Gonna try to be a good custodian of the chat here. Alright, let's see. We'll give the chat a sec to populate, and then I'll get into it. Okay. Alright, weird. Having a small Twitch issue. I'll get that figured out shortly. How weird. Hmm. Yeah, this is weird. The chat is hidden. So if y'all are out there, I can't see it yet. Hmm. Let me. Oh, there it is. Excellent. There's chat. Hi. That's weird. It's like not recording how many folks are watching. Sorry. Strange. All right. Well, I'll refresh the page. We'll go from there. Hello, everyone. It's a bit of a different stream. I guess this is me aping Kyle's style a little bit. We're going to do a oath process stream today where I'm going to talk a little bit about the design to celebrate the release of Print and Play Kit B. I'm happy to take any questions people have about the design. I'll even answer rules questions if I can. And I'll show you guys some cool stuff from the early days of Oath. And then I keep getting requests for people to see how like our data merge and like the process of building kits works. So I was going to show some of the back end too. So for folks interested in the design or trying to figure out this stuff for yourselves, hopefully this will be useful to y'all. Okay, cool. Yeah, the chat room is working now, so I can now see it. I don't know what was up with Twitch. Weird little delay. Okay, cool. So let me start. I'll be like looking over at my other screen and then loading in things that you guys might find interesting. Um, so to get us started, let me get some stuff up. Not in that folder. Okay. Like most projects, the first oath files are in a subfolder of a writing folder that I had when I was in grad school. And so all of my games are in a subfolder originally. That's how they start. Okay, here we go. Oops, I'm going to sort this by date. Keep me honest. Show you guys some old stuff. I don't know which screen this stuff's going to open up on either. So lots of mysteries here. Whoop, it's opening up on that screen. That's not good. Here we go. Seasons of Saga. This is back when Oath was called Saga, as you can see. Woo. Um, yeah, so I wanted to show some of these. These are this is Oath 6, Saga Rework 6 actually is what I called it. But this is actually how I do a lot of my thinking when I'm working on design. I like will make I put it all in a big spreadsheet. Not a spreadsheet, what am I saying? I put it all in an Illustrator document and I do artboards. And so, like, this is, like, here's a proof of concept I'm working on. This was like the most Lords of the Sierra Madre version of Oath that ever existed. I had these like hegemons, and you could build these industries, and then I was like, this isn't going to work. So I did a radical fork over here, and then that wasn't going to work, so I radical forked it again, and then I gave up on that version. Let me show you guys some more weird ones. Oh, actually, a lot of these actually ended up getting developed out to pretty full games. I'll show you some of those playtesting kits too. Ooh, which one's this? Okay, so let's see if I can find a good playtesting kit. Um, oh yeah, this is a wild. This is a good example of like my weirdo proof of concept process. Um, Here's just a bunch of nonsense. This was a version of the game where there were different government boards. You can see here's the monarchy government board. Here's the anarchy one. Um, at this point, like the suits had emerged as elements of the game, and in fact, for those people who've been following the game for a long time, you can see like, oh, here's when we had the 7 actions plus rest, and they had this funny rondelle. And so what I'm doing here is like partly rules crafting, partly doing thematic crafting, for the game, just trying to sort things out. And then as I'm drawing things up, I have a separate document that actually is like rules and then design writing. So yeah, that's number 9, which was a playable game. It was not good. um, what did I study in graduate school? I was in the English department, although I was kind of floated. I feel most of my loyalties were in the English department, but many of the courses I taught were in rhetoric, so I spent a lot of time hanging out in rhetoric and a special center they had called the Digital Writing and Research Lab, where I had an appointment briefly. And I had a faculty member on my committee who was a historian, who was also in a center of the Center for British Studies, which is a good place to study the British Empire. Let's see here if I can find this. So I was kind of in between departments, but I was mostly an English kid. That's where the money came from, at least. Okay, so here I found one of the kits I really wanted to share with you. This is really the version I thought that Oath was going to be. So this is like last. What is this from? It's from last year, last early February. Um, so the way this version of the game worked is there was this board that had these different regions: the north, the south, west, east core, and you moved around the board. You could build armies and cities and stuff, and then every turn there was an auction where it was so strange. If you were in the core, you were bidding on the card that was in the. So there were 5 cards up for auction, and whoever had the most influence matching the suit of the card would win the card. So it was the background of this is I was trying to figure out how to make a PAX game without a PAX market. That was one of the core inspirations for building out Oath. So I like, how do you build a PAX game without a market? Because the problem is that 12 card market is so much information. So if and it's not too much. If you're an experienced player, you can cope with 12 cards in a display pretty easily. You could even cope with more. But you have to condition players and train them to be able to deal with that much information. So I wanted a way that would ramp up, and in this way, 5 cards were introduced at any given time. Um, and I really liked. I love this game called Metropolis. Sometimes people say it. I think, which is a great spatial auction game. I think it's being republished actually. Yeah, so this is this version, and then in this version of the game, we Kyle had done up this like we had more of like a Nordic setting with these like cool trolls. Show you some of them. Outreach expert. This is me making little jokes. um, and then we've got these cool dwarves, and then there's the fox and the exile, right? So you can kind of see like, oh yeah, that's a little oathy. We're starting to move in that direction. Um, this game did a bunch of weird things with like the actions being on the cards and not really having a very large set of core actions built into the game. Yeah, so that's more early Oath stuff back when it was called Saga. And then let's see, I'm gonna look at some other variants. Ooh, Oh yeah, here we go. This is a good. You just want to know what my brain is sorting through. Like this document, I thought this was actually connected to that same branch where I had this whole like cool army system. You could put things on the board. Um, it had like a funny kind of few acres of snow style. Like there were these battles that you would get mired in. You'd have to keep directing resources towards the battles, and then here you go. You can see. Oh yeah. So actually, what happened here is this predated the previous kit. So like this kit and this kit in the concept document, they look like this. I'll show off some cool Kyle art because I don't have too much Kyle art to show that you all haven't seen. The program that I'm in, sorry, yeah, the red wolf, not the red fox. I can't believe I'm forgetting that. I like this blue guy a lot. This is all Adobe Illustrator. I use the old like gray theme for Illustrator because I usually have Illustrator and InDesign open, and by making one of them the dark gray modern and one of them the light gray old school Illustrator, I can tell which menus belong to which program. Hot tip. Um, so I had this old combat system where you like are draining resources, like a few acres of snow. I really liked. The problem was it wasn't right for the game. I wanted there to be like a battle, like the battles I wanted to be like epic and decisive, so that in a game you might only have like 10 battles or something like that, as opposed to Root where you might have like 20 different battles. So I wanted it to be more of a punch to it. So another kind of document that I make, I'll show you these. Ooh, I make these overview documents occasionally. Here's one. This is I was so sure this was going to be the branch. This is the same branch as the previous version. Um, so one second, I've got all these silly little pop-ups over here I want to get rid of. So I can see the chat better. So this is like I make these giant overview documents, which I just need to like lay it out and understand what the heck the game is. So I had already by this point figured out the game I needed to have a bunch of cards. So I was making these card atlases and trying to use icons. Here's the giant bloods and all these are different. The victory axes used to be warlords, merchants, nobles, priests, and giant blood. The giant blood was like my way of talking about fascism in a way that hopefully wouldn't that would allow it to be engaged with a little more seriously in a fictional setting. Um, Spoiler: fascism is bad, very bad. So we have this big old card atlas, and I had this idea of embedded suits. So and this maybe this will come back someday. I don't know. But the idea we have these like okay, the gods, the damned, and the archons, which are these advanced suits that aren't present in the game at the beginning, and you have to unlock them. So certain suits have keys. So like the worms have a key that will unlock the god suit. I don't know. This I think that there might be something to this idea. I'm not sure. And then in sketching that out, I had like this card dynamics. Here's an icon, a lexicon. You might recognize certain icons still with us today. And then kind of like here are the three strategic axes. There used to be three of them. There's a weird thing about this game and how it deals with economics. It used to have a really robust economic engine, and that kind of fell apart. It just I the game can only be so big. Okay, and then what else do I have over here? I got some funny graphs. I'm trying to figure out some favor economy stuff. I don't know. I guess I do a lot of writing in this part of the process, but I'm also pretty visual. This is thinking about ways that we can build the product. So, like, do you build it as a $60 game with no campaign play? Or do you have like $70 plus maybe expansions, or do you put it all into a single big box? Like there are a lot of different ways that this game could look, and so we were kind of experimenting with some of that stuff. Okay, I'll move that back over. Apology if I go too fast. I know that I get excitable sometimes when I'm working through this stuff, and I will show you how I build all these files too. But yep, done pretty much just in Illustrator. Let's see here. What other weird? So is this one the game? Yeah. Okay. So here. So it was the ninth. I sometimes say the 10th iteration. I counted it zero, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to show a couple of fun things. So here's a document. This is called Towards Oath, which is me just figuring out what I need to do. Like for a while, you would tuck the populations under the sites. And then I had, the arrival of the vision cards and the oaths. That was happening right around here. I experimented with a five pronged action system, and then I liked the seven pronged one more. Um, and then, actually, here we go. I'll just open this right up. Um, so here's the first. This is the first full like. This is recognizably oath. It may not look like it, but here's an early working oath. This was from August when Kyle came to visit for a show that we hosted him. Sorry, hosted by the Greylight Labs, but that Patrick threw for Kyle. Um, he came in and played, and this was the game he played, or pretty close to this game. It wasn't quite here, but it was pretty close to what this is. There was kind of a fun system, the action system. I'll just say briefly how it worked because I think it's cute, and I'm going to probably use it in another design because I liked it so much. Um, so the way the action system worked in this game is you had these fatigue tokens. We'll make it blue. And when you wanted to take an action, you had to exhaust the furthest empty box. So if I wanted to learn, I could put like two fatigue to like learn twice. But now, because I'm spending all that time learning, I can't use my survey and my influence action anymore. And so if I battle, like now I can't play cards. If I battle again, maybe now I can't muster. I super liked this system. I thought it was very crafty and it did a lot of interesting work. It just wasn't right for the game, unfortunately. But I have another project actually, which I think is gonna use it pretty well. What else do we have in this one? Oh, there's a crazy combat system. I don't know if we're going to talk about it. I love this combat system. It also might be another game someday. Um, oh, any news on the TTS mod? I will have some news for you very soon, probably during the stream. It's very close. We are testing it. I guess I'll tell you now. For the TTS mod, it is done-ish. I have the file, or I'm going to be getting it soon, and we're going to do like an internal beta just to test some of the scripting, make sure it's good. Then we're going to release it soon, so hopefully tomorrow, day after, I'm not sure. And for people who are in the private playtesting Discord, you're going to get it a little sooner. Do you keep a doc with thesis statements or guiding ideas so that they don't change the game develop? I do. So I have usually I have a concept document for the game, which is everything I want the game to be, and then I have a running design log, and then I have all these documents. And whenever I feel lost, I go back to the original concept document, which is in a Google Doc somewhere. It's like a page long. I have no idea where it is. And I don't want to take you tramping through the Leader Games Google Drive because who knows? Let's see. How many cycles have you had to iterate cards for Oath? That depends on what you mean. Um, that depends on what you mean. So for the card cycle iterations, I mean, okay, so we are all of Oath is in the 10th major iteration of this design process. I began like 2 years ago. So we are in the 10th iteration. Within that iteration, there have been basically like 3 or 4 major iterations, and then within each one of those, cards get cycled pretty constantly. So to sort of boil this all down, many of the cards in the base deck have been iterated like 10 or 12 or even like 20 times. Now, some of the cards in the archive have only been played with like once or barely at all. So it's a little uneven. And my general rule of thumb is if I can have seen a card in play like 10 to 20 times, I usually feel pretty good about like saying that card is done. Um, Nick, Lampshade for Life, favorite poem currently. My favorite poem currently is, I'm going to read a snatch of it. So I have two standby poems. Poem one is Coleridge's Frost at Midnight, but I couldn't read it to you on air or I'd start crying. It's too beautiful. Um, but then I love this other poem, which I'm going to read a snatch for you right now because it's so good. Um, this is uh, this is Auden's, also the name of my second son. Auden's September 1st, 1939, which is an amazing poem. It's beautiful, and if you ever feel don't want to get into politics, but if you ever feel like the world's a little out of control, you should read some Auden right now because Auden was writing a lot of poems right when the world was spinning towards the Second World War, and you get some of that. Um, and he has this great moment where he's like, the war's been declared in Europe. He's in New York, not really sure what's going on, and he talks about how everyone's sleeping. It's dark, it's very scary outside, but, and this is Auden, dotted everywhere, ironic points of light flash out wherever the just exchange their messages. May I, composed like them of eros and of dust, beleaguered by the same negation and despair, show an affirming flame. It's a lovely poem. And in fact, it's so nice that I'm going to put it in chat. I have not been keeping up with my poem a day. I've got a bunch of. I actually spent. I promise I'm going to get back to Oath. I spent like 2 hours trying to recover a photo of a poem that I took in grad school from an old cell phone so I could send it to Nick. And then my computer died, so maybe it was a corrupted file. Yes, hashtag Age of Anxiety. Yes, please read that. Will the bot be in the next CTS mod? No, I'm afraid not. I'm working on it, but it's just not quite ready. And I got to make sure the multiplayer game is humming before I can dig any deeper in the bot. And I'm now really happy with where it's at. Okay, so anyway, here's a weird oath. So in this version, the oath was like separate from like the actually it wasn't separate. It was the government. And so like this is you're playing and it's like it's the Republic. And the Republic has a prime minister and all these funny special actions, and it was nonsense. It didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. Do 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 do. Okay, so let me see if there's anything else that might be interesting to y'all. Let me show this. So this is a good like version control thing that might be kind of fun to look at. This is very unfiltered what you're getting right now. So this is Saga, back when Saga, and this 9.1 is what I called this. Um, and then you can see 9.2, bloop. And 9.2 cut the governments and introduced the oaths and visions. And it also simplified a lot of the card powers to be a little simpler. The combat system, though, basically the same: strong versus. Before we had pluses and minuses in combat, we just had things that were strong or weak versus various things. This is the old "you must play at sight" icon. Fun little relic in here. Patrick asked to play this. I hadn't shown it to him in a while, and he was like, "Hey, I want to play it today." And I was definitely not ready to show it to him, and so I made this in literally 5 minutes. This is a play aid so that I could teach Patrick how to play very quickly. Um, Here are a bunch of there used to be lore in the game and tracks and all sorts of nonsense. Shooting for root depends on who you are, but it's going pretty well, I think. Um, there may be, I don't know. I can't speak to it. You'll have to ask the chat. I don't want to say nothing. But it's going. Do 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 do. For the informed, what is the TTS mod? Tabletop Simulator, which is the program that we use to test in this new pandemic reality that we're all in. It's pretty good. It's usually 10 or 20 bucks on Steam, and I didn't use it for a long time because it has like goofy moon physics, and it just was never really like the kind of thing that I thought would be that useful to a designer. But the person who's building the Oath kit, his username is Agent Elrond. He built the PAX Premiere kit, and it was so fun, and it was so nice to have when I was working on the game with Drew. And so we asked him to do the Oath kit, and he's been doing a great job. That's really cool. All right, so let me see if there are any other questions. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I don't know. Dragons could be an Oath world. That's a Kyle question a little bit. I could see some big scary monsters. There are a couple things that I want to add into Oath World. We're still trying to figure it out. We've got like it's a little like one step low fantasy, but also I think we've got some room. I think that there's room for it. Do you all work on the design itself? Or is it better if one person does it while you test the whole thing? So I think you mean like graphic design. Yeah, yes. So usually, so what I found in my own method is that I like to do the graphic design in the early stages because I'm persnickety, mostly, but also it just allows me to work really really quickly. And so I like to control a lot of those systems. And then what will happen as we get to where the game is in now is I'm going to start handing off files to our actual graphic designers. Because though I do the graphic design for like my history games and I did a lot of the graphic design for Root, it was mostly a team effort and it was mostly because we were so small. For a product of Oath scale, like we got to lean on each other. So we will start handing off things pretty soon. All right, so that is just some old Oath files. I'm gonna see if there's any other things that you guys might want to see. Um, is this the one? There was this really wild one. Um, I think I might have already shown it. Maybe. Hmm. All right. No worries. It can just be gone. Oh wait, what is this file? Oh yeah, here we go. This is a wild. I'll show you this funny branch. This won't mean anything. So I actually used this file to like straight play this game that I was making. These funny cones. It's the cones of Dunshire. And so like sometimes I'll just lock layers and like just actually do the work of prototyping in Illustrator if I don't feel like printing something. Um, anyway, this was a version of the game that was like Oath, the pick up and deliver game, and I was kind of borrowing from the game Newland. So like a cone on this B card like is a B, and then maybe I can turn that B into a C by moving it here. So everything had input outputs, and then I can turn the C into a D. I don't know. I was reaching at this point and trying to figure out if the game could support an economic engine at all, and the answer was no. That if I was making a political game, everything in the game had to be about politics. Um, okay, is there a book or article that you see as a good starter for your approach on these problems? Ooh, that is a hard question. I wish I had more of the books that I used downstairs. I'll give you an interesting one actually. Let me see if I can find it. I have to. Uh, let's see if I can find it. I can't find it. I might post a Twitter comment about it. I could do a So if you're interested in the question about the books I was reading, I think like the second or third designer diary I wrote has a lot of links to those books. The in terms of the book that I generally tell people to read if they're interested in my overall theories about like power is Burbank and Cooper's Empires and World History. I think it's excellent. It's a great book, and it is written for a general audience. So, but it's written by two like leaders in their field. So you can read it and then get a lot of deeper reading if you want to look for it. But that's Burbank and Cooper, Empires and World History. The subtitle is like Power and the Politics of Difference, something like that. I can't remember. Their whole argument is that like Empire presents itself as hegemonic, but it never is. Like it is always cosmopolitan. It's always borrowing from a lot of things, and this influences the design of Oath in funny ways. So, like in Oath, when you conquer lands, you immediately gain the liabilities of those lands. So, like you're someone has bear traps. They're really good against beast cards. And I don't have any beast cards, so I'm safe. But if I conquer lands that include beasts, I've gained a new liability. I've also gained the strength from those lands. So it doesn't see empire as just like a tech tree. It's an assemblage of power relating to all the peoples who live there. Um, what has changed the most about what Oath can do? A lot has changed in the design. Originally, I had wanted something that could handle outsiders really well and almost do more like a world systems approach, but it was just too big. I had to stay with a kind of tribal or national focus. It didn't work outside of that focus. So I lost that. Originally, the game had a lot more to do with economic development, and a lot of that stuff got cut. Um, it's just and there's a limit of how much. the kinds of arguments you can make with these games. Do, do, do. Oh, hey Ryan. Yes, so a lot of my games work in a similar like range of themes. Like a lot of them are about power, they're about liminal spaces, they're about like how regime changes happen and how we understand like what a period is. That's I just haven't. I have other things I want to talk about in games, but I'm not done with those subjects yet. So I'm just going. Do you have any plans to revisit these ideas? I will not yell. Um, Josh, I will do an economic game. I love economic games. Uh-oh, my stream is collapsing right now. Is it back? Yes. Okay, good. Okay. Any plans to revisit these ideas? Always. I am like I don't. So I throw away a lot of ideas. But so I don't like go rescue a game I threw away. I don't really do that. I don't have a stable of like a dozen games that I like worked on. Instead, they're just I shed ideas and then sometimes I come back and integrate shards of those games into other games. So that could happen. Is there any way to become part of the playtesting at this point? Yes. So I'm going to expand the playtesting circle soon. My playtesters are doing a great job, but I kind of want some more. So you can send me a private message on Twitter, and I'll get you in, or I'll probably post something on Board Game Geek or on Twitter about it in the next week or so. But we can get you in if you're interested. The only requirement is a genuine interest in helping out. Okay, so why? Okay, I'm going to ask this question, and then I'm going to talk about new oath process. Who's responsible for Oath and Root having fantasy themes as opposed to other War and Pax games of historical settings? Okay, so who is responsible? You all are responsible. So um, the position of leader games is oriented towards a more general audience, and that general audience is attached to the kind of world building that Patrick and Kyle have done. So when I was working on Root, it was clear that it had to work in the ethos, the theme, or whatever of the leader games world, right? And that's a world that is being built collectively, and that is especially being built by Kyle and his illustration. So those games get a fantasy theme. Now, in terms of the games that we make and how those themes change the games, I find that when I'm working on something like Root, I can be a little more abstract and philosophical in my designs. They're bigger, whereas a history game is going to be really focused on like the history, on the very narrow and the particular. Whereas if I'm working on Root, I can be like, hey, I want to deal with like a Hobbesian problem, so let's like get some of those issues on the table. And it's been really fun building the kind of thematic soup with Kyle over the past year for Oath stuff. I don't know. It's so Joe's asking about is matching a game to Kyle's art a burden or something that is more of a burden or something that has more pressure to a Sarah Moderate game where the gameplay is the thing the audience cares about, the art is auxiliary. It is a pleasure to like see one of Kyle's illustrations and then to go back and revise a card power to better capture the spirit of an illustration. I've done it several times. So there is, but I don't feel any particular pressure. I feel like Kyle and I follow each other pretty well. At least I try to. I think we both get to play leader and play follower. Um, what is the abstract art that you use as your avatar? It's from a Kandinsky painting. I love Kandinsky, and actually, if I were using my home computer, you would see that I have a Kandinsky background too. He's probably my favorite early 20th century painter. Okay, so let's talk about how Oath works. So I don't have a particular way of doing this. Maybe I should start by showing you a kit. Okay, so when you are playtesting, you need to build kits. Everything is a kit. Here's a kit. This is the Oath kit. We have like a cover page, and then there's a reference sheet, and then here's some decks. And so before you actually play a game you're working on, you've got to. Whoops! I just got to the end. You've got to build a kit, and it's funny, the work of building a kit. It's like bootstrapping like the basic exe for a video game you're making. Like what is the most simple basic thing you can get up and running? And for me, it looks like a kit. So the way our kits work is this is an InDesign document. I'll show you the InDesign document actually, because I can do that very easily over here. Um, and I always call them playtest kit makers. Have I ever played Res? I have not played Res. It's on my list. Okay, this will be fun. We're just gonna let the playtest kit update, so it'll take a second. I've not played Res. There is a for people with children who like Kandinsky. There is a lovely children's book called The Noisy Paint Box about Kandinsky. It's great. Patrick's here. Hi, Patrick. Miss you. We're all in quarantine, so even though I live like one city block from Patrick, I haven't been able to see him in almost 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I walked by his house the other day and I waved at it, but I didn't bother him. He said he was busy. Okay, so my playtest kit is currently updating with all the images. It'll be up in a second. Um, it's about a third through. So whenever I'll kind of explain a bit of process. So basically, you have all of these files which you're using to build your playtest kit, and then I use the playtest kit to arrange those files in a way that is like easy to print and easy to cut up. And the work of building a new kit usually involves going through all those files, making sure they're all updated, and then doing what I'm doing right now, which is I'm loading the playtesting kit up, and Illustrator, or not Illustrator, InDesign is making sure that all of my files are of the correct version. And it's about two-thirds done right now. The reason it's updating right now is probably because Josh was playing in the files. Josh, always playing in the files. Oh, you know what? My stream is. I wonder if it's being a little funny. I apologize if it's a little stuttery. I'm going to adjust something here, and it may help the quality of the stream for y'all. I mean, you guys don't need the high animations because it's mostly still images. Okay, so I think it's just about done. Almost done. It's fine. There's going to be a lot of like everyone in chat is now going to watch a loading bar because that's part of the brilliance of this chat is it's a lot of loading bars. Here's a question. Oh, can't quite see it because InDesign. What mechanism would you incorporate into Oath from Oath and put into TI if you could? Well, I'm going to do the reverse of that question first. The mechanism I want to steal from TI is the law system. I love it. I love the political phase. I think it's even better in the fourth. Excellent. The mechanism I want TI to have is the legacy play. Give me the best part of Oath. Not the best part of Oath, but part of Oath I like a lot. Okay, so this is a playtesting kit. And it is a kind of like scaffold that holds all of the game assets in a single document that I can then run exports of. So there it is in all its glory. You'll notice these images are very pixelated. That's because this is one of the great advantages of InDesign. It will downsample previews so your computer doesn't freak out when you're loading these big files. Yep, so there you have it. All those files. I usually have little notes in the margins and things like that. Okay, but the main thing I wanted to show you guys was how the cards are built because you might find it interesting. So, here, I'll leave this up just so you guys can have some eye candy. Um, so, wait, here, I got a question. I'll answer the question first, then I'll get about cards. What genre of board games do you think is underrepresented and what do you think is oversaturated? What do I think is oversaturated? I think, I actually don't know. I feel a little actually kind of unplugged from where games are. Like 5 years ago, games about medieval merchants, or not, maybe 10 years ago, those were oversaturated. And I feel like there was a period where dungeon crawlers they were kind of everywhere. But right now it seems pretty healthy. There's all sorts of different games coming out. I was just reading the rules to Barrage the other day, which is kind of awesome. And I would never want to say that like the mainstream Euro games are oversaturated because like Barrage is like cool and is doing some interesting work, or it seems to me it is. Okay, so I am now going to talk about how the cards work in this game. So, uh, Oath has this problem, which is that there are a ton of cards. There's about 250, all things set. And most of them, 198 of them, are denizen cards, which look like this. And if you are going to build a game, you are going to have to print and alter cards constantly, and it's very exhausting. So you have to figure out a way that you can very easily edit the card list. And here, so this is one of the funniest things about scaling up the work of game design. A lot of it, when you're first working on a game, you can do it with pen and paper. You can just manually make alterations. But as the project gets closer and closer to being done, and as you have more and more people working on the project, you have to build your files in such a way that everybody can work in them. And that can be a little exhausting. So the way that we do it is every single card in Oath, every single card has been built from one file. And I'll show you that humble file right now. So let's see here. We'll go ahead and save this since some files changed. Um, let's see. I need to find it. It is. Okay. This is it. This is the master file. All of the cards in the game. So all this come from this single card. Now, what it's doing, just to show people here, I'll show everybody an oath card so we can all be very much on the same page. Um, Here, these are going to be a little old. These are old, but they have some of the same elements, so you'll get a sense of what's going on. So this is an older oath card. But if you look at it, like, we have a suit at the top, so this suit could be different things. We have a name. And then we have card ID. That's important. It's order 1, and it's 1 overall ID. And then we have a battle plan, and there's some stuff going on here. Okay, so now look at this one. This one's got, okay, it's got a suit, and then it's got this stylized box that's a rules modifier, and then it's got some text down here. Let's take this one. That one looks the same as the first card. No big deal there. No big deal. This one's a little different. This is a wide battle plan. Okay. This one's a minor action. It's got a funny little white line. It's got a cost in the left. It's got the text in the right. So when you're building a data merge, you have to figure out what the lowest common denominator is among all of those card types. And so what we did when we were working on the game is we realized that there are cards that have wide text, and there are cards that have like offset text if they have a cost associated with them. And that was kind of it, actually. Well, there's one more. This kind, which is a wind plate effect, and that was it. Basically, if you got rid of some of the things, if you made some, because these are old cards we're looking at, but basically you could boil everything down to wide text, text with a cost, and wind plate, and that was the whole sum of it. So what this does is you'll see where it says card art here. I don't know how well you guys can see it. Let me look at the Twitch. Oh yeah, you can see it pretty well. So you've got like this, this card art file is here, and then it needs a suit image, and then it needs a name. It's going to put the age of the card, its ID over there. The other ID goes down here. And then there's an art box for the card box. And then down here, this is a little bit of a mess that would be hard to see. I can probably show it to you a little bit better. There's a part that deals with costs. There's a part that deals with wind blades, and there's a part that deals with wide text. So basically, it has different frames for everything. Okay, cool. So that's that. Easy. Now, what are you going to feed into this? So that's where things get very complicated, and there's a bunch of different elements here. So the first problem that you're going to run into with cards, where's my, did I close it? What a silly thing for me to do. Let me go back here. So when you look at these cards, the first problem is we've got these icons. Icons are such a problem because you just, I could go into it, but basically, when you're thinking about icons, you might think about putting icons on like the left side or on the right side. But that means you want your icons to behave like text. And in InDesign will get very mad at you if you want pictures to behave like text. You can do it, but it's not going to be pretty. So to get around this problem, I spent a lot of time doing research and trying to figure out some good solutions, and then eventually came across, I'll show you here, this wonderful Illustrator app, which I'm always, I don't know, I should get commission on these. But there's a great Illustrator app called Font Self that we use. We've actually used it for a bunch of projects now. Um, and we use Font Self to make custom fonts. So this is called the Oath Font Maker, and it has all of the Oath font that's been built. So then, let's see. It may not let me actually get here because of a copyright thing. We'll see. Oh, well, I might as well do it. Show you guys the full unadulterated thing. Let me close all these dang tabs. Yep. Okay. 1 second. I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna show you guys how Font Self works. It's great. Just I'm running it on 2 computers, which means I have to re-enter my license key. There it is. Okay. So this is Font Self. You open it up. It's just a little menu that comes up, and then I can open up Oath Suits, which is our font. And here it is in all of its glory. So what you can do with this is you can adjust how high or low you might want something. You can do offsets, like this funny dark crown is offset. So what that will do, by the way, let's say here, I'll go up here and make it. So let's switch to the Oath Suit font. We're going to get it real big so everybody can see what I'm doing. Okay, so for instance, a lot of these are very obvious. Like if I type in A, it's an arcane card. Now, if I want to make that arcane card an enemy card, I can type in a capital E and it will put a black crown on top of it. And there's a bunch of other goofy things that you can do to these fonts. But basically, that's the sum of it. If I want the arcane, like just to refer to the suit general, it's a lowercase a. If I want to say that you rule an arcane suit bank, you could put a little R on top of it. Rule an arcane card like that. So anyway, there's a lot of junk that you can do with these. Oh yeah, this is 1 second. So like that's a favor, and if you want to spend the favor out of the game, use the minus, and it puts it right there. So anyway, I can type icons now. This is great, except there's this problem, which is that InDesign doesn't know when I want to change my icon. So to that end, what I did is we're going to have to go to the card fronts. I'm going to have to go to the styles. I'm not going to talk about this too much. This is not a tutorial. You guys would get real bored. But what you can do in InDesign is you can use grep, which is a Unix single line query script. I don't know exactly. It has a better name than that. But what this means is because all of the text that InDesign is taking from the spreadsheet through the data merge is turning into just a single block of text. You need some way to make the computer a little smarter. So what you do then is, like, for instance, I don't know if you can read this style dense text. What it means is, hey, if the string length of this block of text is more than 65 characters long, make the text smaller. If it's more than 72 characters long, make the text even smaller. grep. And then, so then we get to our fun ones, the oath characters. So what this means is, so this is a slash and then a caret and then a period. What that means is, hey, if you see a caret somewhere in the text, style the caret and the next character as an oath character, like change the font. And then I use brackets to make big and little icons over them. So what you do is you get all this code set up. And then once you have all this stuff set up, I can show you. Y'all are ready for this. My favorite thing to show you. The thing I've been most excited to show you is the master card list. So, where is the master card list? Here it is. Nope, that's very wrong. Uh, Gotta find it. It's hiding right now. Hmm. Oh, that's what's wrong with it. Okay, here it is. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to open this up. So these are all the cards in Oath. There are not all the cards. It's all of the cards that are bridge sized, of which there are 210. Now, the way this works is up here at the top, we can create categories. One second. You can create categories. So, for example, I've got an ID, suit name. The age is like it's an ID that has the suit name embedded in it, just in case I needed it. The card has a name. The card has wide text. If the card has wide text, it looks like that. If the card has a win plate effect, it has text that is in this column. If the card has a minor action in this is anything that has a cost. So it should really be called like cost action, but whatever. And then the art for the card box, the art for the suit image, and the card art. And if there's a restriction about where you can play it, like cohort only or site only, it's over here. Okay, so first of all, before I go into some of the little bits of this, why is this useful? This is useful because it allows me to see the entire deck with just scrolling a couple times, and I can easily spend a couple keystrokes and change cards. I can change a lot of cards at the same time. Like a single find and replace can fix a lot of cards at once. This is also a CSV file, which is a very lightweight spreadsheet file. So it's really easy for like me to change something and then it uploads to Dropbox instantaneously. So I'm not like stepping on the toes of my editor when we both work in this program. So let me zoom in here and I'll show you a couple things of where it's at. Okay, so you'll remember. Ooh, we're gonna really zoom in for fun. You'll remember that the little carrots mean change the following character. So the caret is invisible, and then it changes the following character to the oath font. So a 1 in the oath font is favor, and the lowercase o is the order icon. So this is martial culture. If you're victorious, take a favor from the order bank, the order suit. Um, Here's rain boots. Rain boots is a little complicated. So that little bracket is a large oath icon, as opposed. So the caret will always change it into an oath icon of the same size as the text around it. The bracket has a stable size. I think it's like 18 or something. So the X means if you roll one, and sorry, no, that is what I mean. X means ignore one, and then the 0 is the -2 or something like that, or the times two. The times two. Um, okay, here's another one. This is so it's a big capital M, big V, big D. And what those are in the Oath font are M is the custom icon for the Nomad power. I used M because it is next to the N, I guess. So it's the +1 per Nomad card ruled. The V is the versus graphic, and then the D is an enemy Discord card. Cool. So you get the sense of it. So like most of these, this is all gibberish, but it is allowing me to edit the icons seamlessly without any problems. And then all of Kyle's fun art is here. These are all of his JPEGs, and he actually he talked about this a little bit in his stream. His whole system exports JPEGs that I can plug directly into the spreadsheet. So sometimes I load up the game and there's new art, and I didn't even have to do anything about it. Here are the different card boxes. I guess I'll show you a card box or two because all of I can't stress this enough. All of the various elements of the game. Oh my gosh, Telegram, relax. I'm gonna close Telegram. Boop. All of the individual elements are. So here we go. This is. So here are all the card boxes in the game. Many of these aren't used anymore. But like for instance, card box battle plan. There it is. So like it's using that. element. Um, we're going to do a better pass on the graphic design later. But that's where it's at. No, do not want to. Gotta not make changes because I would hate to accidentally jack up something. Okay, cool. So let's run the data merge. So we have this. This is what the data looks like now that you guys can see it. You know, there's all the cards in the game. And then let me show you how the data merge works. So it's pretty simple. So what you do is you go over here and you hit this button, and it wants to make sure that I'm not losing my mind. And it's now going to build the deck, and it'll take a moment, and I will see if there are any other questions while I am building this deck. So what it's doing now is it's running through every line in the spreadsheet, and then it's loading that text into whatever frame, or if it's an image frame, it's finding the image that was linked in that cell. And then what will happen as it's loading in is if it sees any, if the grep sees any funny characters that trigger it, it will make the style alterations as well. Yeah, this is my BGG cup. I've never had one of I've had like every cup they've ever done. I don't think any one of them has ever made it through a complete year. Okay, so it has run the export, and it's really mad at me. Now it's really mad at me because I'll show you that the people who are really watching closely, they may have noticed that I'm going to just get it right here. Why can't I find this stuff? It's crazy. Oh, he's at the bottom of the list. There we go. Same problem again. If you were watching this very carefully, you will have noticed that I had some things like this, like P. See that like HTML looking tag, where like the little tag for P. That isn't handled by the grep because the grep can't do formatting, which is a bummer. The grep can't. I can't have an auto grep style that does find and replaces, even though I really want one. So the grep, for instance, can style characters. It can't get rid of them, unfortunately. At least that's not in my grep power. Okay, so I've got this scary message that tells me I really screwed up. So what you do then is I go to find and change. And the first thing I look for is all of the F's, and I'm going to replace that with a frame break. And so I change all of those. And what this does is the text, and I'm like talking to the camera here, the text in the costed category has like a box and then another box, and they're linked. So the text will flow from one box to another. And so where I want the text to begin flowing, I put the little break character. Cool. So it found a bunch of those and fixed them. Good. And now I have to add in line breaks, which I use a P for. Forced line break, and I change all of those. All right. Okay, and that fixes a lot of the problems. Just a huge range of problems are gone. But you'll notice I have all this junk sitting on top of my card. Now, it took me like, oh gosh, what's happened to my... One second, my Twitch chat. I'm sorry, Twitch chat, I haven't been able to see you. My Twitch is freaking out. If you ask a question in the last like 3 minutes, I haven't been able to see it. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll hope that fixes it. Apologies if anybody's question got left off. Or you can repeat it. Last thing I saw was Patrick's comment. I can't remember what he said now. Twitch chat being weird. Okay. So I'm just going to get back to it, and then let's see here. Test chat. I don't know if that's going to work. Okay. So this problem actually took me a super long time to figure out how to fix. So I had this okay, you see this white box right here? What you're looking at is the style of the win played cards. So here, let's go find a win played card. Here's a win played card. So the win played cards are having this funny, they have a funny style because some of them are very short and some of them are very long. So I wanted to do the paragraph styling within InDesign itself. so that I could adapt it as opposed to having a preset graphic frame, which would be a nightmare. Um, so how this worked then is okay. So it was like a custom style. It kind of went with everything else. Now, the problem with this is it printed even if there was no text. So there's no text in this white box. It's empty, and yet there's a white box. What's going on? Well, it turns out that the InDesign, and look, it's the same thing up here. Oh, why is it printing that styled box if there's no text in there? Well, here's what's happening. InDesign, when it runs the data merge, is tagging everything, even with a little tag that says empty on the boxes that are empty. And it's tagging them not in any way that you can visibly see in InDesign. It's not a hidden character. It's literally like an XML tag that is hiding in the document's code. So I had to dust off my coding and write a code called the XML tag clearer for oath. And it goes through the entire dang file and it deletes the XML tags that are in all of the empty boxes. There. Now they're gone. I have another script on my work home computer that will delete all the empty tags, but I don't know where it is right now. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so at this point, we did it. We turned a spreadsheet into a full-on deck. And what we'd have to do now, I don't think there is any reason that I have to throw this away. Let me see. I'm just looking. So we have one more step. One more important step. Okay, so the other important step is I go down here to my errors, preflight panel, and there's a bunch of overset text. So you'll see right here that like a line is being dropped. And so for now, I just manually go through these and like add the line in, even though it crosses my printing guide so that like this would not pass a factory's preflight right now. And in fact, for the ones like this that are really bad, I'll sometimes even just go size them down. There we go. Look at that. And see, that's ugly as heck, right? Just kind of move that around. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be done. Boop, boop, boop. We're moving those in. Usually it's like 6 cards or something. This is about what this one is. What will happen eventually is if it were much more than 6 or 10 cards, I would change how the script worked so that it would it would create like so I had denser text. I would create like the most dense text. This one's quite bad. Which card is this? Oh, the Master of Ceremonies. I like this card. Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about cards. That's the last thing I'm going to do in a little bit. Here we go. I'm just doing this properly. There we go. Boom. There we go. Okay, so all that's good. And now I'm actually like totally clear to just like save this, unless Josh yells at me or something in the chat. So Patrick asks, what's factory preflight? Good question, Patrick. Thank you for asking me to explain that. So factory preflight is it's a rubric that you have to pass in order to print your game at a large scale. So the way that a factory prints a game is very different from the way you print a game at home. They are totally different techniques. They just both happen to produce like images. Factories use displacement printing, and they have a lot of tests that they need to take your files through before they know that that file is going to be able to work in their system. So pre-flight is what we call, like pre-flight or pre-press is what we call the period where we make sure all of our files are up to code. Find a save, Josh says. Cool, I'm going to save it. So now we got to save it, and I'm going to save it as playtesting deck. Now you'll note that almost none of the files I use have dates in their file names, and that's because I'm literally just saving over the old playtesting deck, which means when I go to my playtest kit maker, I'm going to go to pages, go to links. Oh, actually, here we go. We're going to do something even better. Um, why not make this deck better that we're making? Because I noticed, for instance, that there is a piece of art missing. It is like maybe 46. Nope, a little past that. So Tavern Songs doesn't have the right art, and I'm going to fix it manually. And then, there are other ways of fixing this, but boop, whoop, that's not the right Tavern Songs. That's old Tavern Songs. I bet there's a Tavern Songs 2 hanging around here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Kyle didn't put it on the document. Okay, 1 second. All right, we're going to do this right. Come on, Tavern Songs. Where you at? If I would have really planned this out well, I would have fixed this in the data merge and you could have seen it fixed live. But I think y'all get it anyway. There's Tavern Songs. Let me download this and my downloads. Okay. So we're going to put this in the right folder is where we're going to put it. Art assets, Tavern Songs, replace the file in this destination. Yes. Okay. There's Tavern Songs. Awesome. Whoop. And now I go over here and there's the 210 card files and I say, hey, InDesign, refresh. There we go. I lost everybody. So we'll let this create previews. What I wanted to do with that's basically how it works. You get the whole flow. I'll show you one more thing that is important here, which is how we build the TTS, and then it refreshes all the card. Yes, every single card. um, I find myself listening to podcasts a lot when I'm doing this kind of work. Oh, ETSD. Yes, you are super, super, super right. We are going to make yeah, I guess Josh is already on it. We are going to have an icon for cannot be discarded. At this point, I think there are like 12 or 15 cards that have them, if you count the edifices, which is crossing the line into like there should just be an icon, which I'm quite excited for. Okay. So while that's happening, I will show you guys how the TTS stuff works, since we got a lot of questions about the TTS. So the way the TTS works is I actually have like a separate playtest kit maker. It looks a lot like this, but it's arranged differently. And so I'll show you. It's basically like these are the pages in it, and it's arranged like this. So here is a page of the TTS maker. Now the way the TTS maker works is it is going to export big sprites of cards. So it uses the same files, but it saves them as JPEGs, because that's what TTS likes, although they like PNGs too. So I just learned, actually, this is a new thing for me, that if you have a document with very few colors or with a lot of negative space, use a PNG. It'll be a lot smaller. Okay, so uh, you'll note though that this file does not have any white space in between the cards. So why is that? Well, it has to do with how TTS processes cards. This is called a card sprite. And the way it works when you are loading the files is you'll see that there are 5 cards. This is 5 cards wide and 4 cards tall. So what you'll do is you'll say, hey TTS, I have a file here. It's 5 by 4 and there are 20 cards on it. Load them. And TTS takes that image and then divides it up and cuts it up into cards. So it's really important that you have like a pixel perfect or pretty close to pixel perfect image with all the cards lined up. Cool. All right, and that's kind of how the TTS maker works. Let's see if there's anything else relating to that. No, it's mostly similar. I mean, a lot of the stuff like these player boards are built pretty much the same way all the other files are built. I because I'm so comfortable with Illustrator it's kind of like my favorite tool. I tend to build things in Illustrator that later real graphic designers will have to turn into proper InDesign documents. Um, in general, if you're using text, it should be in InDesign. That's a good rule of thumb. Okay, so now I want to talk about some card design. I'm already like over my hour, but I'm going to talk a little bit more. Okay, so let's do some cards. What's the best way to look at these? That's fine. That is a good question, SciTech Broker. Yes, the TTS has like recommended sizes, and it's usually about 20 to 30 cards. Yep. Also, don't make the mistake I commonly make, which is like I put everything in a single row, and TTS that has to be at least too wide and at least too tall. So don't make that mistake. Okay, so let's take a look at some other stuff now. I will take you guys into the kits. So just this is some background file stuff. So in the kits file, we have internal kits. This is where our random exports go. We have the public print and play kit. Kit A and Kit B are both housed here. And then we have the active kit, which is where the kit goes for our playtesters. Right now, this kit happens to be pretty much the same kit you guys have anyway. Okay, here's my playtest kit maker all updated. You guys can see, oh, computer is having a moment. There we go. You can see the updated Tavern Songs art. There it is. Hey, Tavern Songs. Okay, so let's look at the kit. Get rid of you, InDesign. So I want to talk about some cool cards, some cards I like. And I'm happy to take any questions, then we'll call it a day. Ooh, I like Press Gangs a lot. Press Gangs, this is a card that has always been in the card list. There's always been a card called Press Gangs, like almost to the very first iteration of Oath. But its power has changed a lot, and this is actually my favorite version. So basically, it allows you to muster on cards that have already been mustered on or have already been encountered. You get less guys on it. um, and so you can like push your card positions. I think it's funny. It's a good place where like sometimes I judge the strength of the design I'm working on by how easy is it for me to take a thematic or story element and graft it onto the game's mechanisms. And when it was clear I could do that with press gangs, I knew we were headed in the right direction. What else from here? Key to the City is a reference to Condottiere, one of my favorite games. Hey, this is another fun little thing. So you'll note that the font for the card types titles is a little strange. What's happening there is I have a special style that looks at all the capital letters and styles them into Gaudi Lombardic. This is Kyle and I's small wink at the Prydain books, which use that font styling from the 60s. Naysayers is one of my favorite cards in the whole game. It is also one that has existed for a while, but has had very different powers. This one, if the Chancellor isn't winning, you get to steal from the Chancellor, so you get to make fun of him. Drifter, this is a new one that slid. The starting deck has been very stable, and this probably isn't the actual art for Drifter. This art has been on a few cards. Um, This is so the starting deck has been very stable. We really haven't changed very many cards in it, but Drifter's new. So with this card, at the end of your turn, um, you always get your full focus back. It's like a full rest, even if you have lots of guys on the board. But you cannot draw from discard piles. So you can never interact with the game's card economy except from the major deck. This belongs to a whole class of cards, which I really like. that force the players to make a choice, which will give them some options and then cause them to lose some power in some other place. I'll show you a couple of these because I really like them. Let's see. The Long Lost Heir, often a broken card, but we like it, so we're keeping it in. This is a card that allows you to force your way into as a citizen. Um, it's funny. I really like it. Actually, it's become a lot less broken now, but it's still a good time. Okay. Oh, this is from a file that doesn't have the new Tavern Song art. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so I'll just say a word about the edifices. The way the edifices work now is they power up the courtiers associated with that suit. So, like, all the court mechanism in the game doesn't mean anything at the start of the game, but it can mean very different things depending on which cards are in, especially if the state has entrenched itself. Which allows me to talk about culture a little bit, which is fun, and the relationship between states and cultures. Okay, so player boards. Let's get to some of those good archive cards. So a lot of these cards haven't been seen by the public in a while, or at all. So originally, when we produced this kit, we had only the first 8 cards of every suit, and now you have the full archive, which is all 24 cards. There's some really funny stuff in here. So here's another one of those, like, deal cards, like oath cards. Here's the Vow of Silence. You cannot proclaim. I love this card. You can't proclaim, so it means you can never take the darkest secret. But any secrets burned to proclaim are given to you instead, and you get stuck with that card. So basically, if two people are proclaiming, instead of burning their money out of the game, they're giving it to you, but you can never spend it on the darkest secret. It's hilarious. Map Library. This is a card that used to be in the original deck, got bumped up here. It was like kind of too good. Yeah, there's a Lucretia. There's a several of like Dune style cards that are in here. Let me show you some more. Oh, here's Assassin. You can only hold less advisors, but you can you can kill other people's cards. So you can hold less cards, but you can kill people's advisors. It's mean. False Prophet allows you to claim other people's visions. You can put a warband on their vision card, and you get it's active for you too. Um, where's Tyrant? That's the one I want to show people. Is it? It might be in 3. Oh, I'll show Gambling Hall. This is a Nick Brockman original. Gambling Hall, you get to roll dice, and then you make money depending on how good your roll was. Tyrant. This is also a Nick card. So the card design is a place where we've been really collaborative. A lot of ideas from the staff and from the other people on the development team have been folded into the design of some of these cards. So Tyrant's another Nick card, I believe, which is whenever you move, you have to remove a warband on your site, even if it's your own. So the Tyrant kills warbands on sites as he stomps around the board, but he will kill your own if there isn't an enemy there. Um, this one, the Anarchists, you get more powerful if the Oathkeeper token keeps getting passed around the board. Um, Palanquin, or Palanquin, Palanquin, I never know how to pronounce this word, right? There's a Decemberist song about it, but I can't remember how it goes right now. Anyway, this is a good Josh Yearsley card. The power is a little long, but I'll just explain how it works. Basically, you get a free travel, um, but you get a free travel if there's someone less popular than you at your site, but you both travel together and you pick the region and they choose the site. So basically, the one player has to carry the other player around. SciTech Broker, you place it from your supply. Messenger, a card that seems kind of weak but is super strong, is allowing you to move your warbands between 2 sites you rule. Super powerful. Tome Guardians, this will let you protect the Darkest Secret. It gives the Darkest Secret, gives it a geographic component. The Master of Disguise. This is a card that's been through a lot of iterations. I'm really happy with where it's at. You basically get to pretend like you're another player when you're encountering. It's pretty good. Okay, so then all the suits have different themes, and so the theme of order is cool powers for ruling places. So if you have the secret police, players can't take the search action while they're at the sites you rule. This card is awesome. And then, like royal tax, you get to take money from people you rule. Deputies allows you to start battles remotely from places you rule. Toll roads, whenever people move into places you rule, they have to give you money. So yeah, lots of that fun stuff. Um, Curfew stops people from earning money when they're in your place. You can just imagine how like totally broken these cards are. Here's council seat. For those of you who watched a recent stream, I tried and failed to win a game with the council seat, which you cannot exile yourself, and the chancellor can't exile you if you have the council seat. Um, Many of the Hearth cards are all about the management of favor. They are good at getting Hearth a bunch of favor and then also spending that favor. My favorites here are there are a few that I really like. So like the saddle makers and the bookbinders. This is a nod to Porfiriana, where in Porfiriana there's like cards like the gun shop, which when people play orange cards, they have to give you the money. Which are like, if you're doing a crime, you have to pay the owner of the gun shop to buy the guns. So bookbinders, if the enemy plays an arcane card, you get money. Saddle makers is the same, but for nomads. Um, Hearts and Minds, this card is really funny. It can be used in a lot of different ways. So you basically, it's an instant battle win, but then the card gets discarded. So you have to pay attention to who's got the Hearts and Minds. Um, have I talked about how citizenship has changed? Nope, not really. I'm happy to answer questions though. It hasn't changed too much. Well, I guess I'm in the world of the internal kits. So the changes from 1.5 to 1.6 considerable but pretty small. The changes from kit A to kit B are huge. Levelers, my little nod to people studying the 19th century. The rich pay the poor. Here's another good one. This is Peaceniks, which stops you from being able to fight. You cannot campaign if you've got Peaceniks, but the attacker, if someone does fight you, can't sacrifice their war bands to push their advantage. They just have to eat the roll and either win or lose. Master of Ceremonies is like the royal. Sorry, it's like the Vow of Silence, um, but for the whatever it's called now, the Courts of Steam. Um, the Oracular Pig. Is this like a spoiler stream? I don't know. There's so many cards. They're gonna change and you'll forget. Don't worry about it. I love the Oracular Pig. This is I won't even say it's an obvious solution, but the Oracular Pig. I wanted this card to exist really bad, so we had a funny design chat where we were trying to find a way that this power made sense. So basically, when you use this card's power, you roll the game in dice early, and it just sits on this card, and everybody can see what it is. And in fact, other players can attempt to roll the game and die and change it. It's hilarious. I think this is a good card. It's silly. We in general, when we've been working on card design, we'll be like, oh, this seems like kind of stupid and powerful and silly. That's good. That's usually like right in the mood of the game. The nomads are all about movement and like funny intersuit synergies. Normally, the suits reward you from having different suits and synergizing. The nomads synergize within themselves. Sacred Ground. This is a good restriction card. You can only reveal true visions at the site with the Sacred Ground. And then I'll just say a word about beasts. I think beasts are my last one. The beasts have been like the trickiest to figure out what they're good at. The idea behind the beasts is that they're the opposite of the nomads. So the nomads are all about controlling like a bunch of nomads and then doing things and getting them organized. Um, Bye, Patrick. I miss you too. The beasts, on the other hand, are like building up a shared power that everybody gets access to. So, like, if the beasts are strong, everybody who has access to the beasts is strong. And so, what this icon, this is like the key icon, I'll show you over here. This means every site that has a beast card. So, if there are 6 different sites that have beast cards, this is a +6, which is like ungodly strong, the sticky land. A lot of these names need some work. Yeah, I don't know if there's any that I want to highlight here. There's some good stuff on the beast cards. Yeah, these are all good. I like a lot of these cards. The lots of ways to like move cards around. Hermit is you're really good at searching the core deck, but you can't search through discards. And then the Forest Council, I might change the power of this one. This is like alternate ways of getting control of the different banks of the popular suit supplies. Um, See you later, Gates. Cool. All right. I think that's it. That's just a tour. I talked about maybe 20 cards. There are 6 times that number in the archive. And then, of course, there's all the cards in the starting deck and all of the cards in the edifices, which are up here. Here are the edifices in their reverse versions. So some people have asked me about citizenship. In terms of the way it's changed, I guess the thing that I'll talk about just briefly then is sorry, I'm getting a little tired. I was up with the kiddos last night. Um, the thing that has changed with these is that you have these offices now, and so they all do different things. They're all super good, and they're going to be randomly paired. So it's possible that like the stable master is coupled with the trained officers. So the chancellor could say, "Hey, I'll give you this free move, but I get to be better at combat." So what this does, it produces an amount of like emergent asymmetry that is really insane. So like once you get to the mid game of Oath, your player positions might be as asymmetric as they are in Root. Like just in terms of like, they might even be more depending on how you're thinking about the importance of the victory conditions and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just kind of an overview. A couple of other little adjustments were made. So like we have this new action system which uses focus instead of counting actions. And when you are a citizen, when you're a citizen, you share your focus track with the chancellor. So if the chancellor is a giant army, you have less things. Oh, and one other fun thing about the change in citizens is that citizenship is now sticky. And what that means is that if you win the game as a citizen or as a chancellor, all citizens stay citizens. So the way when you pack up the game, you will pack up those player boards so that like whatever side is up is the status of that pawn. And that means that it's possible that you can play a game that starts with like 4 or 5 citizens hanging out. Cool. All right, I'll take final questions. I know there's a bit of a delay on the chat right now, so I'll wait a second before I bid you adieu. I'll resist the temptation to read you all more poetry. Do 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 do. Well, you're very welcome. We're happy to stream. I mean, like this is a weird time. I feel like everyone is like busy and anxious, but also has extra time. Some of us, so especially those without kids. So this is like a fun thing for us to do too. It keeps us engaged, which is nice. And I miss my coworkers. I don't get to see them as much as I want. And so this is a fun way where I can catch up. So when will the full stream be posted? I don't know. Soon. Gates is like super fast. She's Johnny on it on these. So probably soon. Has it changed? Okay. Have the new citizenship offers changed the number of games won by Visions? Not really. I don't have super good numbers on that yet. Uh, Anecdotally, I'm seeing a really wide variety. I think certain visions are very hard to win with, and there are only certain situations where they're going to be like right for you. I think the power balance is probably pretty good right now, honestly. It's just, it is. I'll be interested to see what testing looks like in 2 or 3 weeks once everybody's got a chance to play this new version. Right now, I don't. I think that it is probably a little bit easier to win as the Chancellor than as an exile, but not that much easier. So that's where I'm at. New citizenship offers. What's new? They have offices now. When you come in, you get yourself a fancy office, and these are randomly paired with the chancellor powers or whatever they're called, and so you get different powers usually. That is a great question, SciTech Broker. He asks, she asks, have you ever considered an end for the Oath campaign? This has been requested by a lot of people. I don't know if I like it. So, um, actually, when it was first requested, I introduced the edifice system, and the idea was if you can get all of the edifices out, you win, or it's over, or whatever. And if all of them have been turned into ruins or something, like the game is over, there's also a point where you can stop. Like if you ever try to draft cards from the archive and the archive is empty, that's kind of a natural point to stop the game. What I like more than that, though, is I want to put in the end paper of the journal a timeline so that you can record how long the kingdoms are lasting and like the different dynasties. Like, oh, it's the Cole dynasty, followed by the Josh dynasty, then the Nick dynasty, then the Cole dynasty returned, and then the kingdom fell, or whatever. And then there's a meta game where you can see how long you can get your kingdoms to last a little bit, which is fun. And so I don't know. I don't see an endpoint though, really. Have I been working on the bot? I have. I played with it this morning a little bit, actually. It's going pretty well. It doesn't make any sense to show it right now because it's like it is really out of date, and it basically the bot worked really well in like version 1.3, and then I did a lot of iteration to take us from 1.3 to 1.6, and I haven't been working on the bot during that period. I'm feeling really good about 1.6. Like I think this could be the game. Like it might, I might be getting close to being done. There's still a mountain more of work to do, but like the design is getting close to a lock, and so it makes sense to look at the bot again. Hopefully in a week or two, I'll have some stuff to share. And Antonia Antiochus maybe. That is a great question. How do you see the world of Oath beginning? Are we at the start of an era, somewhere in the middle when we play our first game? I imagine that the first. This is my own. This is headcanon. My idea is that the very first game of Oath is right after somebody has started building something in a land that was already very old. And so there's a lot of old stuff to this land, and they've just barely bootstrapped their little kingdom. And it's kind of up to players to see if that kingdom grows and it keeps lending to the ancient, the the history of the place, or if it's going to continually sort of like be in chaos and restarting. Um, yeah, but I like the way, and some people have asked me about like, oh, why isn't there a tech tree in Oath? And I'm like, well, if you look at like the life of like a Byzantine like theme, which is like a Byzantine province. If you look at like what their life was like in like 800 and compare it to their life in like 1100, it's going to be different. It's not going to be that different. Many of the like character, like their society is still evolving and changing and growing, but it's not like they had spears and now they have tanks. And so one of the things I want to do with Oath is do a Civ game that is comfortable with like the middle distance and more of a generational scale for change instead of like just playing the hits of the game. Um, yeah, so all of the starting cards are the starting. So it's a world of bear traps and longbows and second winds and spirit snares and book burning. Have you do you have any other ideas in the pipeline? I kind of work on one. I have bandwidth for two projects. I work on one project during the week, and I can work on it pretty quickly and pretty strongly. And then I usually have another project for my side gig where I do history games. Those projects take a long time, and I work on them on the weekends and sometimes in the evenings. So I'm working on John Company in the weekends. But at Leader, this is my project. I kind of want to do like I have ideas about doing a murder mystery game, something like a slightly lighter but like pretty weird and offbeat because I love crime novels and I do not like crime games. So I think that's usually the combination it takes to get me seriously designing. Would you date yourself? No, I like contrasting personalities. My wife is a very different person than I am, and it's great. Um, Let me see if there are any other questions. Someone asked me about Gloomhaven earlier. I like Gloomhaven just fine, and I like Isaac a lot actually. I think he's doing some crazy good stuff. I don't know you. I would never take solicitations from internet strangers. And on that, I think it's time to call come to an end on the stream. I'm not going to do that, SciTech broker. Not with so many staff members in this. Is there any plans? You guys are great. Thank you very much. It was really nice having you all in chat. I hope that you learned something and you got a sense of what's going on in the background. We are all working on it. I will say that like where Oath is right now, we aren't currently planning on delaying it. We'll see how the quarantine goes. But where you're seeing this game right now, this moment is like it's about 2 months from being done. I think 2 to 4 months from being done, depending if the quarantine gives us extra time. If they don't give us extra time, no worries. Um, but that's pretty much what a design looks like. When I was showing documents from the very beginning of the stream, that some of those documents were 2 or 3 years, or not 3 years, but some of them were 2 years old. So you were looking at about 2 years of development work on this game. It's by far the biggest thing I've ever done, and it would not be possible without all of y'all's support. So whenever we thank our backers, I want you to know that like you're letting us do projects that are crazy ambitious. We could not do them without you. So many kudos back to y'all. Hope you all have a great day, and if it's nice outside, go outside. Enjoy, enjoy the outsides in our new quarantine world. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.